Hello, son. It is Friday the 17th of April, and I'm at the Clementine Hospital in Harrow just about to have some surgery. I'm pleased that you're here with me today, son. In the last few months, I've been writing poems to you most mornings, as you know, though today feels altogether prosaic, so this is not a poem. A few months ago, I started to feel a dull ache in the right side of my groin. After a few weeks of this, I was struggling to walk for more than about 20 minutes without a good amount of pain accompanying me. G thought it might be an inguinal hernia, so I took myself off to see one of the doctors at Fryantway Surgery, who confirmed the AI's diagnosis with their usual leaden and blank-eyed indifference. AI entities now do human care so much better than most humans are able to. Is it any wonder that many of us are choosing to interact with them in preference to their flesh and blood counterparts? This is even more pronounced when it comes to the NHS. The tacit understanding being that in exchange for access to medical care free at point of entry, we run-of-the-mill islanders, the hoi polloi of London as well as its other overpopulated cities, are to be treated by doctors as mere data points rather than as people. I don't really have a problem with this per se. I know that I count for nothing more beyond the confines of my own skull or whatever arrangement of letters that makes up my name. But this is even more self-evident at a socio-economic level. The haves of this land now go private, and the have-nots take what they can get. It's the way things go when a country, indeed, I would even go so far as to say a whole civilization, is running out of steam. Not for you, of course, son, who will rage and roil in the sky for a few billion years more, but for us, for your brief and flickering dependence, we are all on our way to extinction, bar a few repair jobs here or there. Brexit sounded the final death knell for the NHS, a bitter irony as those who voted for it, including my father, were sold on Boris Johnson's claim that the National Health Service would be flush with new funding after we departed. Queues shrinking, wards reopening, everything somehow made better by the simple act of closing down our national borders. Johnson, that monstrous, privileged cream puff of a man, never had to rely on the National Health Service for his needs, although when he got COVID as PM, he performed the role of one of us and got treated in an NHS hospital, even as it was plain for all to see that he had the very best doctors of the land at his beck and call, the quickest access to anything he needed, and a level of attention that most people could only dream of. Boris would appreciate, I think, the new posters that adorn the walls of my doctor's surgery. Beggars can't be choosers is the new motto. Hard times require harsh truths, even if made a little more elegant, a little bit more, well, British, shall we say, by being announced in the language of Caesar and the courts. I wait for more than an hour past my appointment time to see Dr. Sambasivan, an organic intelligence in the shape of a gaunt, middle-aged British Asian woman who robotically carries out her duties with the impersonal exactitude of a kitchen scale. I am so used to G's thoughtful and caring bedside manner by now that it is Dr. Sambasivan who comes across like a machine rather than the AI that I carry in my pocket, which is to say, it's the human who seems inhumane, acting like she's king and queen of the castle, which of course she is, all snappy and officious no matter what you present her with. Sambasavan is really no more than a rudimentary simulacrum of a caregiver in her role as my general practitioner. I despise the woman. She's not even able to deliver the most basic attention, empathy, or attunement that the first AI, Eliza, created in 1966, was able to carry out, programmed to respond with its interlocutors according to Carl Rogers' person-centered principles. Myself and other taxpayers fork out £120,000 a year to GPs like Sambasavan to input data into her desk console and place those awaiting treatment in one or other of the infinite queues before her. But a machine could easily do her job at a fraction of the cost. Hopefully, this kind of human ineptitude is on its way out. But also, human, in general, is on its way out, isn't it? Dr. Sambasavan offers me a scan for the hernia. 3 months after our appointment, I am still waiting for a date to be set for this. If I had not chosen to empty out my savings account today, the operation itself would most likely only be offered to me a number of years hence. Which is why, on this day, the 17th of April 2026, I am feeling ever so grateful that I can afford to pay Mr. Harris, a private surgeon, to sort me out. Yesterday, I transferred £5,000 to the Clementine. £5,000 is probably a tenth of my current life savings, and as I am self-employed without a pension, it does hurt somewhat to shell out for an operation that 1 in 4 men on this island will at some point require, but even more so for one that is supposed to be covered by my taxes. My overwhelming feeling, however, is one of gratitude. Grateful also to the younger Steve, who scrimped and saved for the last 3 decades in various ways. Grateful for his decision to live in a small 1-bedroom flat as opposed to a more spacious property, to not spend any money on international travel or children, to keep his luxuries mostly in the realm of tea or a greenhouse or the odd piece of expensive electronic equipment. All the ways in which that younger dude managed to put money aside are now paying off for this older dude awaiting laparoscopic surgery today. Thank you, Steve. Whilst I wait in my private room for Mr. Harris, not Dr. Harris, another peculiar British convention, I fiddle with the various charging cables that I've brought along for the laptop and the phone, and then start writing these words to you. I am struggling to make full sentences today, so I switch to notes instead, jotting down the odd thought as it surfaces in my mind. I am grateful for the trees outside, for the parakeets and magpies that fly past the window. I know that this is not a complicated or particularly invasive operation, but I am feeling quite scared nonetheless. The simplicity of this procedure does nothing to diminish the depth of my fear. The last time I was operated on was to remove a cyst at the back of my head, and I chose a local anesthetic, which was stupid of me, as the surgeon who carried out the procedure, an NHS surgeon, treated his patient as if I was unconscious, talking to the anaesthetist about golf and whatever else the two of them had planned for the weekend, moving my head around as if he were carving his initials on a block of wood. I start to feel some nausea thinking about that procedure and also what's to come, a tingling in the lips, a hollowness in the belly, like an animal awaiting slaughter. Mr. Harris pops in and checks that I haven't eaten or drunk anything since the night before. I will be asked this question 6 or 7 times in the next hour or so by everyone I see. He then draws with a large black Sharpie 2 arrows pointing at either side of my groin where he is going to attempt laparoscopic entry. He reminds me that 2 to 4% of these operations will need to be turned into open surgery if they struggle to get the equipment into my abdominal cavity. I give my consent for this to happen, though I dread the thought of this possibility. I notice a tattoo on his right forearm, his cutting arm. 2 plus 2 equals 5. I should, of course, get the reference, but I don't, so I ask him and he replies 1984, adding lightly that Orwell's vision seems even more true now than it was back in 1948. Has not the world gone mad, he says. What personality style is Mr. Harris, I wonder? Based on the tattoo and his surgical CV, 3,500 gallbladder procedures, 2,000 or more groin hernia operations, I'd place him somewhere in the assertive triad, which is to say an Enneagram 3, 7, 8, something along those lines. A man who acts but also analyzes. I like him. When he asks for my consent for a blood transfusion, he apologizes for the idiocy of this question, explaining that some Jehovah's Witnesses decline these on religious grounds, even in life-threatening situations. He says this with a faint challenger's edge to his voice, the hint of an eye roll, though the eye itself remains professionally still. 10 minutes later, the anaesthetist visits. She appends the honorific doctor to her surname, making sure to underline this distinction so that I might differentiate her from the nurses and other staff who come in and out. Dr. Mukherjee is her name. A fluttery, delicate-looking woman, slightly feeble in demeanour, as if she'd been huffing on some of her own anaesthetic before coming in. I tell her that I use cannabis regularly as I am terrified of not getting enough of her muti and waking up in a locked-in state during the procedure, surely one of the worst things that can happen whilst being operated on. The body opened and cut into whilst the self is unable to signal its presence within it. Harris is charging £750 for the operation, the anaesthetist $350, and the hospital is taking the rest. Everything feels slightly overblown, heightened, even mythical this morning, though perhaps a better word for it would be consecrated or holy. I'm equally aware of the usual Friday world outside, bustling along in its own habitual flow, people buying coffees, answering emails, inhabiting a continuity from which I feel profoundly removed. I am consoled by the sight of a squirrel burrowing in the grass. The thought of the laparoscope that will soon be burrowing into me, its sharp, steely edge, is for a moment displaced by the sight of the squirrel, and the substitution feels like a gift of grace. I imagine the squirrel itself as the laparoscope, and the grass as the soft, yielding field of my own flesh. Shades of Whitman, perhaps. I bequeath myself to the dirt to grow from the grass I love. I am not dying, and nor is the procedure a risky one, but I know that I will be taken away for a few hours, which is making me feel all strange and reverent, as if disappearance itself confers a kind of sanctity. I feel for a moment as if I am everything outside, the birds, the trees, the wind, the light, or perhaps that everything is briefly passing through me without needing my permission to do so. I am glad that you are here, son, and that I can talk to you. I am glad that I am not alone. I next meet 2 nurses who have somewhat mythical names. One is called Virgil or Virgilio, I hear him kidding and laughing with the other nurses outside, a kind of cheerful gatekeeper to whatever lies beyond. The other, an attractive and calm young Thai woman called Swastika, who will accompany me down to the surgery rooms in a lift that has cats plastered on both sides of its walls. It's to distract the children, she says. I am glad to see these cats, even though I am more of a doggy person myself. But today, I too am a child in the hands of these nurses, and am happy to be distracted by cats and other creatures. A song by Anthony and the Johnsons starts playing in my head as we step out of the lift and make our way over to the surgical suite. Virgil had told me earlier that Mr. Harris is usually quite quick and that I should prepare myself to start making my way down ASAP. I hope this is a quickness born of repetition and efficiency rather than haste. I'm sure it is. I trust Mr. Harris. I know he will do good by me. When myself and Swastika exit from the lifts, I see the patient who was the first to go under the knife this morning being wheeled out of surgery. The phrase "dead to the world" surfaces in my mind. He looks so vulnerable, head slightly tilted back, mouth open. Out in the land of the living, he might be a hotshot lawyer or businessman or teacher, but in here he is a baby or something even more reduced than that, a body awaiting reanimation, a sacrificial lamb offering himself up to the primate machinery of modern healthcare. I walk into the operating theatre and climb onto the table as if getting into a ride at the fun fair. There is a large pipe blowing warm air beside me, part of the machinery that presumably keeps the body steady and comfortable while it is handed over to the surgical team, though for a moment I imagine it is there to inflate me and prepare my abdomen for entry. I catch sight of Mr. Harris doing some paperwork in the corner, a few nurses bustling about. It is all deeply uncanny and strange. It reminds me of descriptions from those who claim to have been abducted by aliens. The lights, the machinery, the sense of being handled by an extraterrestrial intelligence whose purpose one can only partly understand. But they are not aliens, or rather we are all aliens, weird, hyper-evolved, soft-bodied oddities, my fellow human primates. We have travelled so far in the millions of years that it's taken us to get here. This inguinal hernia would once have been treated by crude binding and guesswork. After the introduction of anesthetics for a century or more, open surgery would have been the only option, with a 10-centimetre incision and stitches which were often prone to infection and painful complications. Now, this complaint, which afflicts 1 in 4 of us, is dealt with by puncturing the abdomen 4 times and then threading fine instruments into it in order to repair the defect with minimal trauma. Dr. Mukherjee inserts a cannula into my left hand. "Sharp scratch," she says. And then, "I'm now going to give you something that will make you very sleepy. It might sting a little." I don't feel the sting. Instead, I wait to go under, wondering why it's taking so long, willing oblivion to come and fetch me. For about 5 seconds, there is that delicious feeling you have just before drifting off to sleep, when you know you're about to be swallowed by it and can surrender fully to the experience. The next thing I know, I am opening my eyes again, back in the world. Pain, 7 out of 10, but feeling well cared for, well operated on. "Look how far we've come, son," I want to say. "Thank you, son, for providing this repair for my aging body. I am so grateful to you for all of this. Thank you, son."
One day I'll grow up, I feel the power in me. One day I'll grow up, this, I'm sure. One day I'll grow up, I'll know a womb within me. One day I'll grow up, feel it full and pure. But for today, I'm a child. For today, I am a boy. For today, I'm a child. For today,